And good evening, Pittsburgh Steelers fans. Welcome to another episode of Steelers Friday Night Six Pack. I am your host, as always, Tony Defio, and I am so excited you guys are joining me tonight on this actually pretty pleasant Friday night in Pittsburgh. I was out earlier. I was out shopping for some dinner, for some post-show dinner about 45 minutes ago. And I'm like, wow. It's almost fall, but it really isn't. It's still early July, so we still have another 8-9 weeks of really hot weather. At least you never know anymore. But I can't believe how pleasant it is, especially considering how hot it was just a few days ago. It was torture. I was out running on Tuesday. Don't ask me why. I'm almost 50. I'm not even allowed to shovel at this point, and I'm out running in like 95-degree weather and poor air quality alerts. Don't ask why. I'm trying to get abs, I guess. But yeah, it's a pleasant Friday night where I am as of right now. And if you're watching right now, you're watching me on YouTube live, where you can catch so many live podcasts every night. Actually, there's this show, and then you'll see me again on Monday night with Brian Anthony Davis and Shannon White. I forgot to mention Shannon last week. I felt so bad, but he's a great addition to the show and adds so much insight. So it'll be the three of us moving forward, and you can catch that every Monday night at 8:30. It's called The Hangover in the off season. In the regular season, it's called The Hangover all the time now, right? Yeah, it's still The Hangover. What am I talking about? Sorry, it was a lapse. Tuesday night, it's the Scobro Show with Dave Schofield and his brother Rich. That's a great show. I enjoy that. It's a very popular show. And and Dave's son Kyle is becoming a star before our very eyes. So look out for him. He's another one, just like Connor Davis, who will be taking my job soon. And I'll be on Twitter bashing them on Twitter about how they don't know what they're talking about, because I've been in this business for 3 years now, the podcasting business. So I really know more than them, which is not true. So check that show out Wednesday. It's the Curtain Call with Michael Beck and Jeffrey Benedict. And soon it'll be Know Your Enemy, where they always have an awesome guest on every week during the season. And I think they have some during the off season too. So that's an awesome show. I always enjoy getting their takes on football. They both know their stuff. Jeffrey Benedict, he's just a film breakdown whiz, and Michael Beck, of course, he played football, so he knows this stuff. So that's a great show. Thursday night, it's a preview with Jeff Hartman, Brian Anthony Davis, our podcasting manager, and Dave Schofield, the one of our editors. And Friday, it's this. Saturday, it's Touchdown Under with Matty Peverall and Mark Davidson. And then, of course, on Sunday, at least in the off season, it's Tales from 2 a.m. with the very famous and very popular and rock star like Brian Anthony Davis. So check all those out. You can catch them all live on YouTube. And by the way, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please like our page. It helps us grow as a podcasting platform. And Brian Anthony Davis and Jeff and Dave and everybody, they're all helping us grow. We're adding new people. We're adding new podcasts. We're adding new personalities. You're really going to love what we have in store for you this coming regular season. And, of course, you can check us out on Facebook Live right now. If you're watching on Facebook at the moment, you can check all those shows out live as they happen too. So please check us out live and check us out on audio-only platforms such as iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, anywhere you can find podcasts on audio platforms, you can find us. So please check us out. And we have a bunch of audio-only shows. Of course, we have the Retro Show with Brian Anthony Davis and yours truly. We have Live Mike with Jeff Hartman. We have the I'm sorry, I always get that mixed up. I need to write this down, even though I wouldn't look anyway. Live Mike is Michael Beck. Jeff Hartman is Let's Ride. Matty Peverall is The War Room, and it'll be called something else during the season, I think. The Stat Geek is Dave Schofield, and we're going to have more audio only shows, more personalities. You're really going to love it. You're really going to love what we have in store for you with the audio only shows too. Our podcasting platform has grown so much over the last 13, 14 months. It's incredible. It's like a radio station. It's weird. Not weird, great. Weird would be like if a deer was hosting one of our podcasts, and that, as far as I know, it's not going to happen. That would be weird, but this is great. And of course, check out Behind Steel Curtain, the website. We bring you news, commentary, film breakdown, transaction updates. We're going to have a lot in store for you once training camp kicks off, which it'll be starting within another couple weeks. It's amazing. It's almost here. So please check us out. As what we like to say, it's your one-stop shop, your only stop shop for all your Steelers needs. It's my favorite website, and I think it's the best Steelers website on the internet. So please check us out. And hello to Mark Davidson. I just mentioned him. He's a star. He's a stud. He's a star. He's everything. George Teston, Daredevil, Steeler Nation 412, Kenneth Beamer, Clarence Washington, Steeler Chick 46, Rashawn Mallory. That's a new face. Welcome, Rashawn. Steelers Pittsburgh. That's a regular. Kathy Ford, a legend. Brian Brown becoming a regular. Danny Owens, same. Let's see. Did I miss anybody? Joshua Petrick. Allie Howard. We haven't seen you in a while. I think it's the same person I'm thinking of. So welcome. And I think I got everybody. But I hope more join as the night progresses. Alex Flores, Jerry Cherry Band. Wow. John Trent, Tate Boys. This is amazing. This is full house almost on a Friday night, early July. And, of course, I have to talk about social media this week. People always say, why are you talking about this? Well, why wouldn't I talk about the biggest story of any week? That's what you talk about. That's what you write about. And to me, the biggest story of this past week has been Devin Bush's social media activity, mostly on Twitter. I don't know if he's on any other platform. I'm sure he is. But he's certainly not making the noise that he is on Twitter. And he got into a bit of hot water last Sunday night first of all, he was so active he just became mysteriously active on Twitter all of a sudden over the last couple of weeks, really, but especially last week. And he went off. And of course, if you remember the end of last week, the big news was him making fun of TikTok. And of course that caused everybody to say, well, Juju and Chase Claypool and those guys are on TikTok. Does he mean he's dissing them? So that was like the big controversy of the end of last week. And those were the good old days. If you're a Steeler fan of Devin Bush, because Sunday night he got into even more hot water, or actual hot water, way more than with the TikTok stuff, when he retweeted a video from 2015 of a cat that was they were trying to rescue it. It was stuck on up on a ledge on a staircase, and it went awry, and the attempt went awry, and the cat wound up falling. Several stories, and was severely injured. Actually, it survived, and it's paralyzed now. And I don't know if it's still around, but it's getting around. Or if it is around, if it is still alive, it's getting around on a contraption that somebody built for it. So, but people were shocked and dismayed and outraged over the retweet and Bush's joke that he made about it, which I won't repeat. But it wasn't a good look for him. And I didn't find out about it until about 10 o'clock or so last Sunday night, and everybody on social media, everybody on Twitter was jumping on Bush for this, and a prominent radio host, which I'll fall in line with everybody else on our platform, on our podcasting platform, and not mention his name, but you know who I'm talking about. He's a controversial local sports radio host, been around for a while. He has the highest ratings in the city, has for quite some time. So he jumped on. He's always been on the Steelers' case for as far as back as I can remember, but especially recently with their social media activities, always dogging Juju Smith-Schuster, and now Chase Claypool's in the mix. So, of course, when Devin Bush retweeted this and made the joke that he made, it was a slam dunk for him to really, jump on his high horse and criticize Bush and criticize most of the Steelers for the culture. And of course, I got involved and we went back and forth a little bit, and then he muted me. So, but it didn't stop me from arguing with a bunch of other people all night about this video, about this retweet. And I thought it was bad. I thought it was a bad look for Bush. But my original point and my point throughout the night was, look, it was bad. But number one, this is you, Mr. Radio host. This is your attempt to take this this tasteless tweet and rope it in with all the other stuff that you've been railing against these guys about. Guys like Juju and Claypool again, and a lot of whoever else is doing TikTok videos and Instagram and all that stuff, and trying to put it all in the same pile and say, well, this is why they don't win. This is another bad mark against the team, the locker room culture. This is why Tomlin's lost control of the team, and of course Bush made it easy with this horrible video that he retweeted. That was my initial point, is that I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to lump all. You're trying to use this and say, well, see, I told you social media is bad, and this is on the same level as Juju, doing a TikTok dance or doing a commercial. It's a distraction, and Juju's on the same level as Bush and Claypool. They're on the same level. They're all jerks. They're all a-holes. That's how he put it to me on Twitter before he muted me. So that was my first point. My second point was, okay, it was bad. It was a bad thing, but he didn't make the video. He didn't participate in this injury to this feline. And it wasn't a video about a cat being tortured. It was a video about a cat, an attempted rescue that, again, went awry. So, again, it was bad, but does this mean that Devin Bush should life be ruined because of this? Should he be suspended? Should he, should it affect his football career? Should he be ostracized from society because of this? And I maintained then, and I maintained almost a week later, no. And people were going on and on with me that night. The whole fan base is talking about it. It's the biggest thing ever. You need to act like a journalist and not a fanboy, not a media stooge. That's what I was called, pretend media. I think I was the first one to be called pretend media, at least that night. So I take credit for that. And like, yeah, I don't think that's what's going on here. The whole fan base isn't in an uproar over this. Because I talked to a bunch of friends throughout the week, and a lot of them, most of them, didn't even know about this. And as it turns out, it didn't have the lasting effect that a lot of people thought it would have. The Steelers, as far as I know, never even addressed the issue. As far as I know, Bush really isn't in any trouble over this, and it's kind of gone away, which is what I thought would happen when I first saw it. Now, the thing I found funny about this is people were like, "Oh, you must condone violence against animals and animal cruelty and all this stuff." Like, no, I'm not condoning any of that stuff. I think it's pretty obvious, and that's where we are today as a society in general. Everybody takes everything to an extreme. So if you defend somebody for an egregious error that they made in judgment, a lapse in judgment, then you must be on the same level as them, and you must, agree with this. Like, no, I mean, it was stupid, but he's 22 years old. And like I said on the site the other day, if my 20-year-old cousin retweeted the same thing, I'd be like, come on, man, what's wrong with you? That was stupid. But I wouldn't think, oh, you're a piece of crap. You're incorrigible. You don't deserve to be part of society. I wouldn't think that of him at all. I think he's just a dumb idiot who needs to grow up. And that's kind of what I thought about Devin Bush in this instance. He was basically trying to push the envelope all weekend, and he went one step too far. But, he's 22 years old, and, it was wrong. It was stupid. But let's give him a break as far as condemning him for life. Let's let him learn from this and move on. And I was going to forget about it. I wasn't going to bring it up on the show tonight at all. I wasn't, because I was exhausted from talking about it all Sunday night, all day Monday, and all day Tuesday. I had enough. I had enough by Tuesday night. However, Wednesday evening, I was actually sitting in my car on Boulevard of the Allies. I'm from Pittsburgh, so if you know where that's at, you know where I was sitting. It was free parking after 6, so I was sitting there waiting to go to my running group, and I'm reading this article on Twitter from, I'm Pretend Media, so I gotta cite my real media sources, from Tim Benz, the longtime Steelers reporter who writes for the Trib Review, Trib Online, whatever it's called now. And it was an article essentially about the Steelers' social media activity, everything going on with Devin Bush, and he quoted Mark Madden all through. Oh my God, I said his name. He quoted his name, that guy whose name shall not be mentioned. That guy. He quoted him all throughout the interview, and of course, this guy is going on and on about how the Steelers are a clown show. Tomlin's wearing clown shoes. Again, they're all despicable human beings. Juju's AB Jr., Claypool's AB Jr., that kind of thing. And he remembers when the Steelers logo meant something and how they all had so much dignity as an organization. But now that's all been tarnished over the last decade or so, and which is all BS, by the way. I mean, this guy's been doing this with Steelers before social media even existed. I mean, he used to go after Hines Ward and Jerome Bettis and Deshae Townsend relentlessly back in the day on his old radio show. He went after Myron Cope. If he's talking about how he used to have so much reverence for the Steelers, back in the 70s, when Franco Harris was one of the best running backs in the NFL and was one of the best money backs in the history of the NFL. I mean, the guy was just money in the playoffs. But, he's had it out for him forever. He calls him free meal Franco, free loader Franco, whatever he calls him. It all goes back to the fact that he didn't back a certain company when the Penguins were trying to get a new arena built back in the late 2000s. That's what that's all about. He holds a grudge better than anybody I've ever seen, or worse than anybody I've ever seen, I should say. But this guy, if you know who I'm talking about, and I let his name slip like 5 seconds ago, but he likes to push the envelope on his radio show and on social media, specifically Twitter. That's his whole shtick. It's his persona. He says despicable things about players and his listeners and his followers. He makes horrible jokes. Think of Howard Stern back, when Howard Stern was really, really edgy before he got therapy. But think of Howard Stern, but as a local sports talk show host. That's what this guy tries to be. And, he always, when people call him out on it, which they do often because he's always being a jerk, he always says, well, you can't judge me by my Twitter persona, by my radio persona. I'm just playing a character. Ask anybody who's ever met me in real life. They'll tell you what a great guy I am. They've never had a bad encounter with me. And, his people will chime in and they'll say, oh yeah, I met him back in 2009. He signed my son's cast and he bought us lunch and, he signed autographs. He couldn't have been more gracious, and people come to his defense. And okay, I'll give you that. That's fine. But you're saying that people aren't allowed to judge you for your radio persona, for your social media persona, which are both often pretty egregious, pretty outlandish, pretty cruel. The things you tell people to do to themselves. I can't repeat, but it's not often nice. But you want to judge these players and other people, like just ordinary citizens, your listeners, your followers, for how they act on social media. And, I'll give you the Bush thing. That was tasteless. But this goes beyond that because he's been doing this for quite a while with people like Juju, the last couple of years specifically. And it's not really that things that they say on social media or on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. It's the fact that they're even active at all. That's the thing. They're active. So because they're active, then obviously they have to be a-holes. They have to be jerks. They have to be all about themselves. So that's a reflection of their character. But yet you can't do that with him. And I just think that's hilarious, and it's the epitome of hypocrisy when this person does this. And he's smarter than this. I know he is. I mean, he goes on and on about his IQ, 166. He's smarter than this. He's doing this, and the reason why he does this is because he knows that the fans are predisposed to believing that this stuff matters in the grand scheme of things when it comes to winning a Super Bowl. And at the end of the day, he knows, like you know, and like I know, most Steeler fans, most sports fans of any team, really, fans of any team, it comes down to a championship. And if you're not winning a championship, if you're not winning, then there must be some reason why. It can't be talent. It can't just be the fact that the other team was better. There has to be some intangible reason. So you have to blame something. You can't blame what happened on the field. You have to blame this other stuff, social media, worried about your own brand, and that's what he's doing. And I know that's what he's doing. And people say, and I kind of often feel funny sticking up for these guys because they don't know me. Professional athletes, Steelers players, they don't know me. They don't even know I exist unless you're watching this podcast right now. And if you are, welcome aboard. But they don't know me. But I'm not sticking up for them because don't mess with my Steelers. It's not that kind of thing. It's just that I just get sick of people using this social media garbage as a reason why the Steelers don't win or to judge them for the people that they are. I just think it's you know how I am. I've been going on about this for 2-3 years now. How many podcasts have I done where I've touched on this subject? How many articles have I written? I don't think this stuff matters one bit at all. One bit. That's bad grammar. One bit, not one bit at all. One bit. That's why I'm pretend media. Anyway, it doesn't matter one bit in the grand scheme of things. It doesn't determine whether I have yet to see any study done where social media activity has been cited for a team not winning a title. I've never seen it. So that's why I get so frustrated with this stuff. And that's why I defend these guys. Not because I want everybody to love them. It's just like, look, this is silly. And by the way, when was the last time Juju Smith-Schuster has ever said anything on social media that you thought, wow, he really is a jerk? He's always been about promoting, goodwill. And you might say, well, he's all about himself. Maybe that's true, but I don't know, but he's always been about promoting a positive message. He's never been in hot water for anything, to my knowledge, that he's ever said or done on social media, other than the fact that he's on there. That's the only thing. That's the only reason why he's in hot water is because he's on social media. So I have a couple more things I want to touch on. One more Devin Bush thing, but I'm at the 23-26 mark, so I think it's time that I end this part of the show, part one. And if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook Live, please stay with me. If you're listening on an audio platform, well, as always, I thank you for downloading part one, but I please ask you to download part two because I have some more stuff. I have another Devin Bush segment. I have a Jordan Berry segment, and I have questions and comments. So please download part two of this episode of Steelers Friday Night Six Pack. And welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the second part of Steelers Friday Night Six Pack. I'm your host, Tony Defio, and I thank you for listening to part one and downloading part two and staying with me on YouTube and Facebook. And I wanted to get to this because I actually had this person in mind when I was preparing for my show, and that's the Jerry Cherry Band guy. He's a great guy. He's a great musician. He contributes to our podcasts, and he's always somebody who has been very, very vocal about social media activity. And he asked, so newspaper clips in the locker room is a myth? I think mostly, yeah. I mean, yeah. there have been times when teams have cited instances where it's helped them. But look at Joey Porter in 2005 when he provided all the bulletin board material that the Colts needed. He called them finesse. He called them a finesse offense, a finesse defense, and the Steelers basically went out and kicked their butts and beat them. Speaking of the Colts, Joe Namath guaranteed a win in Super Bowl III, and the Jets came through. So it's mostly a myth. You could look at it and you could say it helps if when a team wins, but there are plenty of instances where a player's mouthed off and it didn't matter one single bit. But I'm glad you chimed in, Jerry. Again, I think I love the fact that you're a contributor, but you're a musician, right? And I've been watching a lot of Rick Beato videos lately. It's the off season. So I've been watching a lot of music videos and the history of music. And according to him, and I guess other people, it takes 10,000 hours or 10,000 minutes, whatever it is, to learn, to master a craft, a skill. So you're a musician and you're always contributing to our podcast. You're always on in the live chat, commenting and watching our shows and contributing on social media. I see you on Twitter all the time. And by the way, thanks for the follow. Thanks for following me. You do great work. I just want to get that out there. This is nothing personal, but does this stuff at all affect your ability to be a musician? And I bet you it doesn't, because you're pretty damn good. I mean, you're really good. You should be on, as I butter you up, because I'm criticizing you at the same time. You should be on. You should have your own record deal. You should be on. I should see you on the Grammys or whatever. You should be the band hosting the Super Bowl, whatever. I probably took that too far, but I'm just trying to butter you up as I criticize a little bit. So does this hurt you at all, being on social media a lot and being in the live chat? No. So I don't think it hurts that Juju is tweeting a lot or making TikTok videos. One has nothing to do with the other. That's just how I feel about that. So I'm just glad you chimed in, because I was going to include you in the show. And I have one more thing about Devin Bush, and that is, why do you care what he has to say within reason, or what any of these players have to say on social media? Because it kind of occurred to me after a few days that he was basically trolling us. I mean, I didn't realize it. I should have picked up on it earlier on, but because I am a bit of a troll myself, but it took me a while to pick up on it. He's essentially trolling us. He's probably sitting wherever he's at. I don't know where he's not in Pittsburgh right now, wherever he's living right now. He's just bored. It's the downtime. It's the actual downtime for these players right now. He's a 22-year-old with nothing to do. Maybe he's trying to impress a girl. He keeps going on and on about this anonymous woman that he bought nails for and this and that and the other. And maybe he's in love and she's not reciprocating, and he's just lashing out at the world because he's a girl that he's smitten with does not have the same feelings. It could be that, but he's certainly been trolling us. There's no question in my mind. He's talking about wine and marriage and divorce and all this other stuff, and there's no question in my mind that he's trolling us, because he just keeps saying things like, I'm in trouble, I'm being fined, I'm this, I'm that, and none of it's true. None of it's true. And the thing that I find funny is, here's this 22-year-old, this football player with all these followers, and he knows the second he tweets something, people are going to just like they're going to lap it up, because I follow him. And that's why I was so surprised to see him become so active suddenly within the last few weeks, because I've been following him for like a couple of years, and I forgot that I was even following him, because he never really tweeted much of anything. But I'll see a tweet that he has. It'll say how Twitter is. It'll say 37 seconds ago, this tweet, and it'll already have 7 retweets, 9 comments, 28 likes. So I mean, he has this all in the palm of his hand, and he's making all he's tweeting all this stuff. and he's just trying to get a reaction out of us. That's what he's trying to do. So he has all these middle-aged people like me. I'm a middle-aged person. I can say that. And, older and younger, just like reacting to everything that he says. And a lot of people are like, come on, bro, knock it off, bro. Please just stop, bro. Please log off, bro. This is embarrassing, bro. Please. And I just find it funny because why do you care what these guys say? I'll give you the cat thing, but other than that, why do you care what their opinion? Like, what do you care about what Devin Bush has to say? A 22-year-old who might still be like Steve Carell in that one movie with Paul Rudd and Seth Rogen, and he still might be, at that stage of his life for all we know, and he's commenting on marriage and divorce and everything. So what do you care what he has to say about marriage? When I was 22, nobody cared what I had to say about anything. So what, and Shannon White made a good point a couple times last week. He said, this is another great example. Devin Bush is another great example that maybe you shouldn't look to these guys as role models or to be your moral compass. Like, if I'm 49 years old, like, I don't look to Devin Bush to be my moral compass on anything. I don't care, as long as he's not getting in trouble as far as like criminal activity. I don't care what he has to say. Don't get me wrong. I think we all want the people we admire. I almost look up to. I don't look up to him. The people that we admire, the high profile people, like whether they be musicians or actors, comedians, politicians, or athletes. We look to them, or we want them to be. We want to think that they're decent people, that they're out there kissing the baby, signing the autographs, but that's not always the case. So I get why people maybe are disappointed when a player tweets something that they don't agree with, or that doesn't jive with their worldview. I get that, but at the same time, most of these guys are young enough to be our kids. So why would we be embarrassed with anything that they have to say? Why would we care about anything that they have to say as far as like their opinions? Let them say whatever they want. It's their Twitter account. We chose to follow them. It's not like they came looking for us. We chose to follow them. So whatever they say, that's their business. I really don't care. Again, as long as they're not being, totally offensive and, racist or homophobic or saying these really tasteless things, I don't care. And, I don't think anybody should really care. It's like, speaking of Franco Harris, I remember about 10 years ago, he was on some radio show promoting something. And this is around the time that Big Ben was in trouble, and James Harrison did that infamous interview about Roger Goodell. And, it was just a lot of drama surrounding the team. And, he said he would run into people on the street and they would tell him how embarrassed they were to be Steeler fans. And he said that he said to them, why would you be embarrassed by anything that the Steelers say or do? They don't represent you personally. They don't have anything to do with you personally. They play football, and we cheer for them. We want them to win. We want them to win Super Bowls, but they don't really represent us, our values as people. So if they're out there getting in trouble, that's their problem. I'm not going to be embarrassed by anything any of these guys do or say. I might be embarrassed by a 48-2 loss to the Ravens, or more accurately, the Patriots. But anything that these guys do, it's not going to embarrass me personally. No. I love how people like to talk trash with you about that kind of stuff online or in person. Like, all right, yeah, Ben got in trouble, but he's not my little brother, So I'm still going to watch the Steelers. Why? Because they're bigger than any one player. They're going to be around after, all these players are retired. They're still going to be around. So I'm not going to get, too emotional about anything that these guys do. I'm just not. And I don't know why anybody else really cares about any of that stuff, other than to go back to a previous point. They think it hurts their chances of winning the Super Bowl, which it really doesn't. It just doesn't. and as far as like the brand furthering stuff, and somebody brought this up on, I think it was on our site a few months ago, and I wish I would have thought of it. Why didn't anybody ever care when Terry Bradshaw was making country albums or starring in movies with Burt Reynolds? Or, look at Michael Jordan. He endorsed everything under the sun in his day. It didn't seem to hurt their chances of winning a Super Bowl. Joe Namath was always in commercials. He owned restaurants and blah, blah, blah. He won a Super Bowl. He's in the Hall of Fame. They're all in the Hall of Fame. So, what's the difference between making commercials and movies and then being on Twitter and tweeting all the time? It just, I don't see, actually, I think tweeting is less of a drain on your life than going and making a movie. But, that's enough about Devin Bush. I've talked about him long enough. I just wanted to share one more thing, and that was about Jordan Berry. I wrote an article about him that was published on Friday, and it was about how he's the worst punter ever. At least that's the perception. And I kind of had that perception too, like, man, they got to move on from this guy. And I still think that they do. But after doing some research, I realized that he's basically a middle of the pack punter, which, I guess it's not where you want to be, but over the last couple of years, his gross average has been over 45 yards per punt. His net average has been just under 41, I guess you can say, 40.9 in 2019 and 40.5 last year. He downed 23 punts inside the 20 in 11 games last year, because remember, he was cut in training camp, and Dustin Colquitt was signed, and he proved to be kind of washed up, I guess. So they went back to Berry and brought him back. But, I guess the point I was trying to make with the article, and this is all from last week's show, actually, because Steeler fan 36 was really giving it to Jeff for criticizing Berry. But Jeff has a good point, and anybody who wants to see them improve the punting game has a good point. It's that it's in the middle of the pack. There's obviously room for improvement. And we all know, if you're a Steeler fan, if you're a fan of any football team, you know that even a few poor special teams plays over the course of a year could be the difference between making the playoffs or not, being a number 1 seed or number 3 seed or whatever. You don't think of the special teams when you're thinking about a team's prospects heading into a season, but they often come back to affect games throughout the course of a year. Remember that Saints game? People talk about from 2018. People talk about the Joe Hayden penalties, and they seem to be, well, ticky-tacky would be a kind word to call those penalties against him. But you remember the Rosie Nix fake punt where he signaled first down, and he was like a half a yard short or whatever. I mean, if they don't go for that fake punt there, I think they were winning at the time. Maybe they win that game. So that one play alone may have cost them a chance to make the playoffs. So if you can improve an area of special teams, if you can improve your punting, why not give it a shot? So that was my point of the article. Jordan Berry isn't the worst punter ever. He isn't the worst punter since sliced bread, as I wrote in the article. But you can improve on average, right? If you had a mediocre quarterback, you'd want to get better there. If you had a mediocre running back, you'd want to improve. If you had a mediocre offensive line, you'd want to improve. So why not try to improve punting if it's mediocre? So that's pretty much all I had to say about that. And wow, I've rambled on and on tonight. So I'm going to take 5-10 minutes and answer some questions. Let's see what we have here. Mark Davidson, one of our great personalities, he says, Berry's not bad. He's not great. That's pretty much it. And Brian Brown says, no wonder I can't tell you and Jeff apart. I don't know if that's a compliment or not to him or me. It's either a compliment or an insult to him or me. I don't know who. I guess depends on who you are. Steelers Pittsburgh says the comments in your article were hilarious. That's what I always, well, not always, but that's what I strive for a lot of the times. Bad Itch says Jeff Hartman is going to hate your research. Well, I mean, he pointed out that he knows that He knows that Barry's not the worst punter ever. He just feels that he could be better, or they could be better in that area, and that maybe Barry often comes up small in big moments. And I think it's what a lot of people were trying to say on the site today, on Friday, which, I mean, you could probably make a strong case for. Aaron Butler says, Tony, I agree with you 100%. Smart analysis on your part, but still forever more the Ravens. Yes, that's a good point. What else we have here? What else did I miss? And Steeler Chick 46 says, Bradshaw's famous country album. She was remembering that, my point about that. And I have no problem with that. I don't think it was a great country album, but I had no problem with him doing that. If you remember this isn't about the country album. It's about him starring in movies with Burt Reynolds. If you ever seen NFL films, the end of the AFC Championship game against the Oilers following the 78 season when they blew out the Oilers, not the controversial one a year later, but the one where they blew them out 34-5 in the rain and snow at Three Rivers. He's on, he's talking into the camera saying, Bert, I want to be in your next movie. Make it a Western. And Donnie Shell saying, I want to be in the two. Can I be in the two? They're yucking it up because they're going to the Super Bowl. So it didn't stop them from winning the Super Bowl. So it all comes back to talent. Jerry Cherry Band says, I heard a great quote. I root for the front of the jersey, not the back. I hear you. You could say that based on so much movement with free agency and the salary cap era. And, you want to see these guys, again, you want them to be great people and great personalities. You want them to connect with the community and do work in the community, which is largely the case with most players. They're mostly good people and they certainly work in the community. If you're not, people call you on it nowadays, especially if you're not involved with some kind of charity or something. People are, they're questioning you on it, and you certainly can't get away with some of the stuff that you can get away with 25, 30 years ago. I remember when I was a kid, players would get in trouble, they'd get arrested, and all right, well, that sucks to be them, but I wouldn't say, oh my God, Rod Woodson got arrested. I'm embarrassed. All right, well, I hope I hope it's not too bad. But even if he wouldn't have never played for them again, I still would have watched the Steelers. So. Wow, I feel honored considering Jeff Hartman, his Let's Ride show is so awesome and so popular, and so it has so much traffic and so many downloads. He says, Brian Brown says, you guys are great. It took a month to figure out who you are, two different people. Yes, well, I'm a little older than him, so he's the one who should be offended, but I'll take it as a compliment. Port Tequimba asks, is going into 2021 with Shooks and Banner as our starting tackles the offense equivalent to using Ross Cockrell and Valentino Blake as our starting corners? Well, that's to be determined. I don't know. I'm excited about Banner. Shooks, I think, is more at home as a left tackle. So, you could say that's the equivalent, but until they start playing, we're just never going to know. We just don't know. Ross Cockrell is I don't think he was. What was his draft slot? And I think Blake was an undrafted free agent. These guys have slightly higher draft pedigree. Banner was a 4th round pick in 2017, and Shooks was a 3rd round pick in 2018. So I think there's a little more pedigree there, a little more chances that they can be better players. And John Trent says, who do you think is our starting 5 O line? I think it's going to be Shooks, Dotson at left guard, I think it's going to be, it better be Kendrick Green. I shouldn't say better be, but I think if he's the real deal, then it'll be Kendrick Green. Because I think if he's the real deal, then he'll be head and shoulders above J.C. Hassenauer and, of course, B.J. Finney. So it'll be him at center, hopefully. And then, of course, Trey Turner as your right guard and Banner as your right tackle. You could, a dark horse would be Joe Haig because he's a veteran and he started, 32 games in his career. So he has experience. So maybe he's somebody that he's versatile. He can play guard and tackle. So if somebody falters, maybe one of the tackles, if they falter, maybe he can be the Matt Filer type veteran presence that you need there. But I think going in, I think those five are going to be your starters. And Brian Brown's pretty active. He's maybe to show MVP. He says, what do you think about some of the backup linebackers in the Hall of Fame game? You listed Gilbert, Buddy Johnson, Robert Spillane, Quincy Roche. What do you think? Well, I'm excited. I mean, Gilbert, I don't know. I mean, he's been around for a few years now. He's dealt with some injury problems. He's only had one preseason because last year nobody had a preseason. So it'll be interesting to see what he does in the preseason this year. As far as Buddy Johnson, I'm super excited about him. I'm always excited about seeing these draft picks, and same with Quincy Roche at outside linebacker. He was so productive at Temple, and then he went to Miami for a year. He kind of had an off year a bit, but like Brian said a few months ago, he transferred to Miami. That has to be a tough thing and a tough life altering move. And then of course last year was so weird with the pandemic and with practices and everything. So I'm really, really intrigued by him and what he could possibly be as a 6th round pick. As far as Spillane, I think Robert Spillane's going to be okay. I like what I saw from him last year when he filled in for Devin Bush when he was hurt, and then of course he got hurt towards the end of the year. But he really showed a lot last year. I think he showed that he was a great athlete, probably a better athlete than people thought. I mean, he was an undrafted free agent, but he was good in pass coverage. He was obviously good against the run. I think he has a real shot of being the starter opposite Bush this year. I really do. But if not, then you have a nice security blanket in Vince Williams, a nice veteran one of my all-time favorite Steelers, and who knows, Buddy Johnson might be the real deal as a 4th round pick. Was he a 4th round pick? Yeah, 4th round pick. I can't talk. And of course, maybe Gilbert finally realizes his potential and takes a step forward this year. And Alex Flores says, do you think we're ready to compete for a Super Bowl? At the moment, no, I don't, because there's some questions that have to be answered. But that's what training camp's for, and that's what the preseason's for. And guess what? The team that you see in September is not the team that you see in November and December. There's so much that can happen between the first part of the year and as you get into the late part of the season. So do I think they're ready to compete for a Super Bowl right now? No, but I'm not sure there are many teams that are at this stage of the year, other than your Chiefs and maybe your Buccaneers, a few other teams. But, like I said last week and many other weeks, most teams in the NFL are somewhere in that, moving forward anyway, that 7-10, the 10-7, 11-6 range when it comes to records. That's the kind of talent that most teams have on their rosters. And I think that's where the Steelers fall in line. If you're really being honest, if you're really being objective, good or bad, you have to say, I mean, when I say good or bad, whether you're the ultimate optimist or the ultimate pessimist, if you're really being objective, you have to look at their roster and say, this is a team that could win 10 or 11 games if everything goes right. And maybe they fall to 7-10 if things fall off, if Ben is done, if the line's horrible, if they can't find a solution for the loss of Dupree and people and of course Steven Nelson and people like that, Mike Hilton. So I think you have to be if everything falls in line, this might be an 11-win team. And as we saw last year, a record like that can win you a division title. So, but that's a great question. Thank you for that, Alex. And on that note, I have one more. And Steeler Nation 412 asked, is it possible Ben plays till 41? Actually, I'd say no. I actually think this is going to be his last year. Win, lose, or whatever, it's going to be his last year. I really honestly believe that. So, and whether it's his last year or not, I think it's going to be his last year here, because I think they're gonna move on after this. I think both parties, or I think at least Pittsburgh's ready to move on and ready to, after this year, they're ready to move forward and get younger at the quarterback position and maybe find their future franchise quarterback after this year. I think that's where that's what my gut tells me at this point in early July 2021. That's what my gut says. Of course, it can all change as the season plays out. So, on that note, at the 9:51 mark, wow, I really rambled on tonight. I will bid you all adieu. I thank you for the questions and the comments. It was a spirited discussion as always. I hope you all have a great weekend. If you're watching me live, if you're listening on a audio platform, I hope you already had a great weekend, or you're currently having a great weekend. Until I talk to you on Monday with Brian Anthony Davis and Shannon White, have a great weekend, and go Steelers.